Good afternoon, everyone. 4:30 on the East Coast. It is indeed a Monday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Hope everyone had a good sports weekend. You are enjoying your 24th of November, 2025. As always, get social with us. It's very easy to do at Rich Q on Q on X and, of course, IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. And we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Play It Again Sports, Three Brooks Bourbon, Get Ready with Tea. And I'll say, if you're an Eagles fan, maybe you needed a couple little shots of hot toddy to put you to bed last night on this, as we like to dub it, a Lunes Manolo Mentiroso, Locador de Radio, Man Up Monday. We're calling out the BS takes, the picks, the opinions, and oh my goodness, what a weekend it was. I mean, think about this for a moment. Just go back during Friday's show, and we were talking about our picks during the pick segment brought to you by Fresh Roasted. We thought it was gut check time. We thought some teams were basically hanging by a thread. We are waiting to see if teams are getting ready. If you're really legit, show me something, Cincinnati. If you're legit, show me something, New England, right? If I'm going to take you serious, Green Bay, take care of the Vikings. Chiefs, this is your last stand. Do something against the Colts. And we talked about all these teams. And then we got, obviously, to the Cowboys and the Eagles in a game that I said, not out of spite. It was not out of spite, but in a game that I thought the Dallas Cowboys were primed to pick off the Philadelphia Eagles. And I pretty much gave you my reasoning for all of it. Issues with the offense, the defense susceptible to a couple big plays, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts not on the same page. Now, you watched that game unfold yesterday, and the Dallas Cowboys consistently shot themselves in the foot. The Dallas Cowboys consistently made mistakes, consistently had bad penalties, and the Philadelphia Eagles took advantage of it. Up 21-0 on the road. On the road against your divisional rival. You can basically deliver the knockout blow against the Dallas Cowboys, get them out of the NFC's contention, move to 9-2, and it's sail smoothing home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Up 21-0, and the Cowboys get that little touchdown, close out the half. And if you're an Eagles fan, you're still feeling pretty good about yourselves. And if you're a Cowboys fan, you might be thinking, we got these guys exactly where we want them. And then what proceeds to happen is the second half is just a theme, a microcosm of what we've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles, and their offense goes in hibernation. Their offense absolutely goes in hibernation. And the head coach tightens up, and the offensive coordinator gets bland. And then you have penalty after penalty, and you allow the Dallas Cowboys to creep back into a game. A game that, on the surface, you can sit there and say, statistically, they dominated. But there's no way in hell the Dallas Cowboys, right around 7:30, 7:45, almost 8 o'clock Eastern time last night on a Sunday night in late November with holidays right around the corner, they were pretty much going to be a stuffed turkey. And the Philadelphia Eagles come out and they let them off the hook, and they lose game 24-21 on a last-second field goal. There are so many things that went wrong in this game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was an ugly game to start with. And you had just these turn of events from Saquon with the fumble, special teams gaffe, again with the Dallas Cowboys going for it on fourth down, not coming up with the proper play call. I mean, both head coaches, it's almost like stupefied last night watching this nonsense. It really was. But I think in a game in which the Eagles choked, and that's exactly what they did. They choked. There's no other way to explain it. They choked yesterday. They let the Dallas Cowboys off the mat. This game falls squarely defensively with the gaffes, the play calling by the OC, and again, the cluelessness of the head coach. Now, you want to sit there. Jalen Hurts is the least of your problems on this Monday. period. Jalen Hurts is the least of your problems. You want to pinpoint a throw here? Hey, listen, Saquon Barkley, who I'm going to get into in a moment, non-existent, 22 yards on 10 carries. But what I saw yesterday was a Philadelphia Eagles team that could not put away the Dallas Cowboys. What I've seen all season long is an Eagles team that at times cannot put away a team. They do not understand the definition of just delivering the knockout blow. This is not last year's Eagles team, period. There's no debating this anymore. They've got issues with the offense. Again, in the second half, they did absolutely nothing. And I'm not going to sit here like some might suggest and pat myself on the back for 15 plus minutes of the show. I'm not going to do that. I'm not, because more times than not, I get picks right and I get picks wrong, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But all I'm saying is this: in a game in which the Eagles had no business losing, a game in which they could have basically knocked out the Dallas Cowboys, a game in which, in a week full of A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and the back and forth nonsense, you could have iced it. You could have got rid of that distraction. Now on a Monday, we're talking about the head coach has his head up his ass, the offensive coordinator is clueless, and the running back looks absolutely shot. And, according to some, soft. And, according to some, got a little fat in the offseason. According to some, maybe a little disinterested, maybe decided to make some business decisions because he's gotten paid and he has a Super Bowl trophy, a Super Bowl ring, and all that can be true. But this team is in trouble. This team is in trouble. And as much as I want to come in on a Monday, on a Man Up Monday, and absolutely roast and toast and lambaste the Philadelphia Eagles, you know what happens? Discretion, the better part of valor, it's going to prevail today on this Monday, because I saw this coming. I saw this coming. This team's got major, major issues. And here's the one play, and there were play after play. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was dropping passes left and right. It's unbelievable. And you got Pickens that everyone thought was a bust, looks like an all-pro for Dallas, and Dak does what Dak does. And you can talk about some of the positives come out of this game if you're an Eagles fan. And there were some positives. There were. But to lose a game like they lost, I mean, the Cowboys, the Cowboys opening turnover on downs. You got, think about it. The defense kind of holding their own, right? And you got 2 snaps, 2 targets. Here we go. We're going to force feed the football. Touchdown, cherry on the top. And away we go. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be a blowout. That's what everyone was thinking. And it looked that way to start. It did. It looked that way. Dallas goes down, on downs. Eagles score. Dallas punts. Eagles go 12 plays, 76 yards, a thing of beauty, 14-0. The Dallas Cowboys fumble. You blink in the second quarter. Eagles go 6 plays, touchdown, 21-0. The Dallas Cowboys come up. They have an intercept. Think about what transpired a quarter and a half into this game. At 21-0, all the Eagles need to do is get a field goal to 24-0, and that game's over. Dallas is not responding. But they got the 3 and out, and the Cowboys scored, and you go into the half. And then after a couple exchange of punts, finally you get the long missed field goal. Okay, fine, we can talk about that for the Dallas Cowboys. You get another punt because the offense did nothing. In the third quarter, the Eagles had 1, 2, 3 drives, and they did nothing. You're talking about 32 yards. I'm sorry. Let me check that. 28 yards of offense in the third quarter on 3 drives. Unacceptable. Once the Cowboys scored to make it 24-14 and Elliott missed that field goal, you just knew. But the play that will stick, honestly, in my mind, to be quite honest, is the fact that this is a 21-21 game. Late in the fourth quarter. And the Eagles, they get a 13-yard pass play from their 2 after the Cowboys turn it over in downs. Now, if you want to argue, you take the point, whatever. I understand sometimes the logic is we don't know how many possessions we're getting. So you tried to be aggressive. I didn't like the play call. You should be running the football there if you're the Dallas Cowboys, and you put the Eagles to bed. But again, they turn it over on downs, goal line, and right out of the back right. I mean, you're deep in your territory. Basically, got no wiggle room. You get a nice 11-yard pickup. Then you get a 16-yard pickup. Then you get an 8-yard pickup. Now, you've got a 3rd and 2 from the Eagles' 37-yard line. The one thing you cannot do if you are Jalen Hurts is what? Take a friggin' sack. Take a sack. And instead of even contemplating running the football, what happens? Hurts is in the shotgun position. He takes a horrible sack. You get the 5-yard penalty, another 5-yard penalty. You give the ball back to the Dallas Cowboys. And then we'll talk about that last drive in a moment. You've got an all-world running back in Saquon Barkley. An all-world running back in Saquon Barkley, and you do not give him the football. You do not. They shouldn't have won that game. And if Dallas actually plays a clean game, the Cowboys are probably going to clip them by 24 points. But because it was 21-0, then 21-7, the Philadelphia Eagles still should have won that game. It made no sense. It's absolutely maddening to lose a game like that. And I came on the air again. The fact that, I said it might not be the worst thing in the world, but it's the fashion in which they lost. And the fact that Sirianni is still going to, Sirianni's not a very good play caller. So he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So now you got Kevin Patullo. He's going to remain the offensive play caller. I mean, come on. Sometimes you got to sometimes you just got to be smart. We can get into the timeouts. That's another thing. I mean, both head coaches did not blow me away yesterday. They didn't. They just not blow me away. And like I said, the Dallas Cowboys, you gave them an opportunity after opportunity. And listen, I'm not going to sit here. I control as much as I want. You guys want to get me on the Giants? The Giants finally fired their defensive coordinator. The Giants stink. But oh, by the way, the Giants also beat the snot out of Philadelphia Eagles on a Thursday night. Like, Eagles fans, you want to come at me with the Giant talk. You just blew a friggin' 21-0 lead. Shut the hell up. Get the hell out of here. What are you talking about, you clowns? Come on. What are we doing? You're on the road against the Dallas Cowboys, puffing your chest out. All I saw on social media, text, Facebook, this is it. Cash in, the Cowboys are done. They're cooked. Where's everyone today? I mean, it's been friggin' crickets. Crickets. Just hoping you will cook the defending Super Bowl champ Eagles like you cooked the Chiefs. The Chiefs, by the way, were lucky yesterday because, again, Patrick Mahomes got a BS call in his favor for roughing the passer. I'm not cooking the Philadelphia Eagles. But what I'm going to say is right now, they don't look like a team that can get back to the Super Bowl. Right now, I don't look at this team and say, legit defending Super Bowl champs, here we go. They're different. No 15 minutes. 14. No 15. All I said Friday was, I believe the Dallas Cowboys will win this game. I think the Dallas Cowboys can score some points. And offensively, I had issues with the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles, because the Cowboys played poorly in the first half and shot themselves in the foot, grabbed the 21-0 lead. And I'm sure there were a lot of people getting ready to come out of the woodwork and proclaim that a win. So again, don't tell me, and I got killed for it a month ago saying this offense sucks right now. Their offense, they ranked 24th, 25th in success rate. You're talking about producing positive plays. That's horrible. That's horrible. Shil Kapadia on X, great stat. The lowest success rate an Eagles offense has had through week 12 in the last 20 years. Now, here's the elephant in the room, the running back. Here's the elephant in the room, the running back who basically got called soft, who basically got called disinterested, not engaged, not finishing off runs after the point of contact, deciding I want to get out of bounds by former Eagle Jason Avant during the postgame show. I mean, his comments, wow. You look at the drop off from Saquon Barkley, and all we heard was, well, they're going to save him for the playoffs. Well, Jason Avant basically called him soft. He's running like he's satisfied. Think about that for a moment. He's running like he's satisfied. Maybe got a little too fat in the offseason. Maybe got paid, got that Super Bowl ring. Now all of a sudden, his production, his yardage, his carries all down. 3rd and 2. You don't even think about giving the football to Saquon Barkley? They might be a good team, but they're not a very good team. And they've got issues. They've got issues. How come Q is reporting on the Giants being eliminated from a playoff berth before Thanksgiving? I mean, that's the thing. This is what you guys do. So this is what you have right here. You got an Eagles fan, part of the clowns that are the bunker boys, who I don't even know if they came out of the woodwork. I don't even know. Airplane mode, gavels being thrown, wrenches being tossed around. I don't have any idea. Kids running laps. I don't know what the hell's going on. You need to worry about the Philadelphia Eagles. The Giants stink. You know, the Eagles blow a 21-0 lead. The Giants fired a defensive coordinator. I got more than 3 hours sleep for the first time in probably 5 months. I'm as giddy as can be on a man up Monday. I'll man up. Where do you want me to begin? Chiefs got a lucky break. That's fine. Do we want to talk about the rest of the slate, the rest of the games that I can pat myself on the back, that I called, that I nailed? Like clockwork. It's too easy sometimes for me. It's too easy. And the Giants blew another game yesterday. I get it. They stink. That's what they do. I'm not shocked. I can't even be aggravated by it. I'm so happy they got rid of their defensive coordinator. But I'm not talking about the Giants. We're talking about the defending Super Bowl champs. You don't think that's a lead right now? Or you want to waste your time talking about Sanders getting a nod in Cleveland? Because I'm sure Browns fans are going to weigh in. You can do the divert tactic all you want. The bottom line is right now, the Philadelphia Eagles have issues. They've got problems. And I'm going to take it a step further with the cocky, arrogant Eagles fan. Don't be shocked if they lose on Friday. Because Sunday was a test game for them. Sunday was we want to quiet everyone out. I believe Luca Brasi turned around and said, kind of the get right game. This is going to silence the critics. I think Tom and Summers Point basically said Saquon's going to run wild. I think Monday Marcus, who hasn't manned up in about 10 friggin' years, turned around and said, this is a Jalen Hurts game. Him and Brown are going to connect. I think Joe D said, watch out, Brown's going to have a breakout game. Where the hell are you guys today? Where are you? Where seriously, where are you? You're up 21-0 on the road against a divisional rival. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And you lose that game. I'm not going to compare it to a team that's won 1 or 2 games, that doesn't know how to close. That's a waste of my time. Congrats to the Eagles on the win this weekend. Whoops. Yeah, I mean, listen. Dallas could have won that game by a lot more. I agree. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Dallas is a good football team. I mean, I can't even imagine. God, listen, I'll tell you what, I would not want to get a bill for any type of oil changes, getting your tires rotated, anything to do with mufflers. I would steer clear of car dealerships today. I can tell you that right now. 26 hasn't been the same since he got that Little Caesars money. Put in a Bigsby, he is still hungry. I mean, but come on, you're talking about Saquon. Come on. He's an all-world running back. Just stop. Dougie Boy chimes in. Nick Sirianni, Kim Abtulo need to be blamed for this loss. Changes are coming in Philly. I would be surprised if not. So you're going as far as what? The head coach is on the hot seat? As a fan, A.J. Brown was right about what he said. What do we got there? I'm trying to see. Listen, A.J. Brown might have been right about what he said, but they force-fed him the ball early, right? We can all agree with that. I have no idea what's going on with the running back. I mean, the offensive line, all we heard about is the offensive line, how great the offensive line is, and you can't even muster more than 3.6 yards a carry. I mean, there's an issue going on. You talk about, again, Sirianni. Is it just listen, you win because you got coordinators, right? Think about it. And I'm telling you guys right now, you got to start to realize this head coach, he's more like a cheerleader. He's not a head coach. And again, you got a coaching staff that constantly makes blunders. You know, got Landon Dickerson talking about key components to the Cowboys defense. You know, we just didn't execute the game plan we had. Okay, falls on coaching. Players got to play. Coaches got to coach. The problem is Dallas bread and butter, right? What do? You bottle up running backs, 5-man front. So think about that. The game plan, offensive game plan by the Philadelphia Eagles, anyone can see this playing Pop Warner football. That game plan offensively was flawed before the first snap even occurred against the Cowboys, which is a horrible look on the head coach. That is an indictment on the coaching staff. But yet people can't see that. No one can see that ever, ever. They want to just keep, we're going to just keep protecting the head coach or the coordinators because they've won. They're consistently winning. That's not a problem until you start losing. It's rearing its ugly head. Period. And the Dallas, to their credit, they were able to blow guys off the line of scrimmage. I mean, so you got a player in Dickerson saying the Cowboys took them by surprise with 5-man fronts on defense. I was texting my buddy and I was like, stop rushing 4. I mean, it's like tailor-made what's going on right now. So you switch to that 5-man front on early downs. But here's the other thing. The Eagles have to keep the defense honest. Any offense needs to keep a good defense honest by what? Trying to at least establish the run. Whether you want Bigsby out there, whether you want Saquon out there, it does not matter. You got an all-world back that rushed for over 2,000 yards and got paid. He could have been the MVP of the league. He's a Super Bowl winner. He's an all-world back, and he hasn't done anything this season. Now, you want to talk about him tip through the tulips? That's fine, because I see it. You know what I see from Saquon, and it's one of the reasons the Giants decided, go ahead, do what you need to do. Saquon is not hitting the hole with explosiveness. He's tap dancing. He's dancing behind the line of scrimmage. Those are the bad habits he was doing with the Giants. And you know when a running back does that? When they don't feel comfortable behind their offensive line. They don't feel comfortable behind their offensive line. He's reverting back to bad habits. You know, the spinning. I mean, everyone knows right now you're going to spin. We're going to grab you down low. We're going to grab your waist high. We're not going to try to get you up top. You know, he rarely fumbles. He calls the game a funk. He promises to be better. We'll see. We will see. But I'm telling you, man, again, he has not been that same back. Now, I can't sit here and tell you they're saving him. For what? You need this kid. You need this back to be productive. And it's just been exasperating. He has not been good. The numbers to drop off is staggering with Saquon Barkley. You're talking about a back that rushed for over 2,000 yards. He hasn't even cracked 700. 2,000 yards last year. He was averaging 5.7 yards a carry. Do you know what that does to an offense? Now I can be so creative on second and third down. He's averaging 3.7. Folks, that's a major, major problem. It's quote, we got to do a better job of putting teams away. We didn't do that. I definitely didn't help. Usually, obviously, last year in other games, I was a big part of that. I'm kind of non-existent this year. I got to figure it out. And I'm not going to say you got a 2,000 yards, set the bar. Look, we see this in the NFL. Teams adjust. Teams make adjustments in the second half. Good teams figure out. This team, over the last month or so, offensively, they've had issues, just like we were talking about with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you start to stack that box and you're going to dare Jalen Hurts to maybe do stuff that he's not accustomed to doing, win the game on his own. Now, he was efficient. This has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts, but it also goes into the coaching staff. It goes into Sirianni. It goes into the offensive coordinator, who, oh, by the way, that was Sirianni's handpicked guy. Haters going to hate. Leave it to the bunker to change the topic to the Giants. Well, that's what they do. It's gutless. That's all. Signature win statement was not for Air Q. Hey, listen, you put it in the comments. I don't know what to say. That's all I heard last week from you Eagles fans. I got the comments section. It's blocked off. It's locked in. All you talked about was this was going to be the get right game. That's all I heard. Eagles too predictable, conservative with hitch routes. Eagles offense is horrible. They stopped attacking Dallas defense and started playing conservative football not to lose. And you can't do that. Listen, Luca Brazzi, I don't want to hear what you today. I don't. I really don't. You can comment as much as you want, but the bottom line is this. Friday, you turned around and you almost guaranteed to win. You thought I was picking out of spite. You did not respect my football knowledge and my opinion, my handicapping ability, and I nailed this one. And now what you're doing is you're trying to flip the script. You're throwing the Giants stuff at me, Shane Bowen getting fired, the Giants choking against the Lions. I'm not going to buy into it. I had a very good conversation with the corporation, and I'm not going to air out what the corporation and I talked about, but we're all on the same page. You said it earlier in the week, whatever. You said it earlier in the week. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, you were watching the show. You just didn't comment. Don't try to hurt me like that. All I'm saying is this. I had a very good conversation with the corporation, and we all believe it's pretty much written in stone right now that there are cracks showing right now with this Eagles team and this offense. And it might rear its ugly head. I'll say this, at this moment, no one's beating the Rams. Now, you want to call me a prisoner of the moment in the NFC? Same can be said. I also think Seattle has an opportunity to do some damage as well, and they rebounded nicely, even though, we told you don't touch that 12 and a half, 13 points against the Titans. But the Rams are going to be a very hard team to beat. And right now, you got teams, Seattle, the Rams, and the Eagles, you're all vying for home field advantage. The Rams were a blocked field goal away from beating the Eagles. Stafford's playing at such a high level. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. You can't say that about the Philadelphia Eagles. That's just my point. That's all. It's a bad loss. It is a bad loss. But again, you hand the ball to Barkley on 3rd and 3, and then, that loss, you turn a loss into a first down, but then you got 4-down territory. You got the tush push on 4th, and, again, late in the game, 3rd and 2, you don't run the football. It doesn't make sense. I don't trust his head coach. I think last year they were winning in spite of him, to be honest. Listen, you just cannot allow the Cowboys to win that game. And this is the NFL. These guys, they make millions of dollars. They're professionals. They're great at their craft, right? So now you're defending Super Bowl champs. Do you not think every team's going to be gunning for you? They're going to give you your best shot. They're going to deliver their best punch. That's just how it is right now. The Eagles are going to roller skate to win in the NFC East. They're going to roller skate to win in the NFC East. But don't tell me it's not going to be a tough game against the Bears. That's going to be a tough game on the road against the Chargers. The Raiders are a bad football team. The Commanders are a bad football team. Those are wins. The Bills might be a tricky spot. Then you got the Commanders. They're going to win 11, 12 games. But now you start to think about that loss. Okay, when it comes into play in the conference, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, don't you want home field advantage? Don't you want to buy? Don't you want to host a divisional game so you can get NFC Championship game if you win? I mean, again, it's just, you look at the conference record right now. The Rams are 4-2. The Eagles are 7-2. Obviously, the Eagles had that win over the Rams, but the Rams are a 9-2 football team. So the Rams have the Panthers. That can be a tricky game. They got the Cardinals, the Lions. We don't know where the Lions are beatable. The Giants showed you that. Seattle, the Falcons, the Cardinals. Listen, this Rams team, they're 9-2 right now. If they win 1, 2, 3, 4, if they win 4 more games and go 13-2, they're going to get home field advantage. So when we sit there and say, well, that's okay if you tripped up in that game, right? That's okay. It's not, because it's a conference loss. Forget about division. And you're chasing these other teams. What I saw last night, that team's a juggernaut. Offensively, you can't stop that team. They had a little hiccup against the Ravens. They scored 17, but then they put up 35, 34, 40, 22, 34. They could have put up 50 last night against Tampa. That's dealing with all those injuries and losing Baker Mayfield. Matthew Stafford is so dialed in. He is so locked in. It doesn't matter where the hell he throws the football. It's a touchdown. He's playing at such a high level. And oh, by the way, their defense is really good. They can get to the quarterback. So yeah, yesterday's game, you want to sit there and say, come on, Joe D saying, Q, you're overreacting. I'm not. I'm not. You have to take these games with a grain of salt in the NFL. When you start to get into November and December, you are separating yourselves. We saw it across the league. Kansas City, I basically left them for dead. I'll man up right now. I left them for dead. What did I say? The Colts are going to go on the road. The Colts had every opportunity yesterday to win that game, and then Kansas City gets bailed out on a bogus roughing the passer call. But again, you saw why Kansas City is still Kansas City. They still have a little Mahomesian magic left in them, but they're a flawed team. The Baltimore Ravens, they let the Jets hang around for about a quarter. And now Baltimore all of a sudden is 6-5, and their run's continuing. We told you this a couple weeks ago. Get to 5-5 and talk to us. This team's going to win the AFC North because the Steelers are a fraud. Point is, in the NFL, when you get to November, early December, you're either trending down or you're trending up. Now you can be 8-3, you can be 9-2, but you can be a flawed team. Every team in the NFL, they do have some weakness, yes. But for my money, the Rams are the most complete team in the NFC. I would even make a case right now in the NFL. Now, I understand New England won. And that was a gut check win for them on the road, little hostile environment, kind of a chippy team in Cincinnati. New England's 10-2. But I'm going to take my shot with the Rams and a proven quarterback and a hell of a defense. That's a veteran team. So they're trending up in the right direction. And the Eagles offensively have never really gotten in gear. And if you don't see that, then you're not being objective. You're not being honest to yourself. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Facts, the Rams are the best team in the NFL right now. I think they are. Yes, there are problems in Philly. However, defending Super Bowl champs have earned a chance for redemption on Black Friday. Savings on Black Friday, right? A redemption? Come on. Corporation is always on the same page. They are. I mean, they give sound advice. I mean, that's the thing. The corporation basically could have got really cocky and arrogant on Friday's show. They chose not to. They chose not to. They're magnanimous and they're humble in their approach. And listen, Denver ball's been rolling. Michael, the big Denver's fan, madman. He's got the 49ers in action tonight. That's going to be a tricky spot against my upstart Carolina Panthers. But they just go about their business and they don't divert because it's classless. Dougie Boy chimed back in. It's bad for Philly Eagles because they were up 21-0. That's a bad loss. That is a bad loss. Ooh, you already on a Thursday, a little guarantee. KC going to beat Dallas. I don't know if this is the letdown spot, but I'll say this. Looking around the NFL this past weekend, by the way, 5 o'clock straight up on a Monday edition on Q. Looking around the NFL this past weekend, first of all, a lot of scoring going on. And there's some really bad football teams. I mean, a couple of these games. Now, my Giants decide we're going to fire the defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. You got to love Jameis Winston, by the way. How about Winston yesterday? Just playing his guts out. And then you had the little trick play from the Giants twice on the double reverse, the flea flicker, and then Oshensky throwing it to Jameis. My man Crablegs catching the first reception of his career and a touchdown. But the Giants, again, they're a bad team. They're a bad team. You allow that game to go into overtime, and then Dexter Lawrence is not out on the field. Now, I get it. He's banged up. But the scheme, you have to find someone to replace Dexter Lawrence in that spot. And then what happens? They don't. And Gibbs basically goes for that long touchdown run, and the Giants lose it on the 4th down play when the line collapsed. Aiden Hutchinson did nothing the entire game, but got to Winston. The Giants are a bad football team. They're 2-10. They're 0-7 on the road. They blow leads left and right. They don't know how to win. I'm ecstatic they got rid of their defensive coordinator because he was a major problem. The stunts they were running, it was just bad. It's bad. I mean, you go back to the Dallas game, and instead of dropping back, you're trying to rush six. What the hell are you doing? You rushed four. You drop everyone back. Did the same thing on the road against the Denver Broncos, did it against Green Bay, and then they did it late against the Detroit Lions. He had to go. He had to go. And the other thing is, we talk about bad coaching in the NFL. You're 2-9 at the time. You're 2-9 prior to the loss yesterday. So you go and you look at that game. And if you're a Giants fan, like I am, I'm watching the game again today because I had to record it. And I'm saying to myself, okay, I like what I'm seeing with the offense. They're running the ball a little bit. They're sticking to the run. They're getting Robinson into the mix. He's going to get paid. We know they don't have certain offensive weapons. They don't have Scatterbo out there. Singletary's wash. Slayton, Theo Johnson is a nice player. And obviously, you don't have Jackson Dart. So they're playing really well. But here's the problem I have when you have an interim head coach who's a coordinator that really doesn't know situational football. It's a 27-24 game. The Giants are leading by 3. You got an opportunity to win on the road against a playoff team in a tough environment where your offense put up 27 points. Over 500 yards of offense. Nice balanced attack. And what do? They methodically marched the ball all the way down the field. All the way down the field. I mean, it was a long drive. And you guys know my sentiment when you have these long sustained drives in the NFL. When you go 13, 14 plays, 80, 85 yards, you better come away with points. You have to. But what do? They elect, this is what they do. They elect goal line situation. You have a first and goal from the Detroit 4. It's a 2-yard run. Okay, run the football. Now, the second down play, all Giant fans were screaming at me. That was the right call. If you watch the play, Theo Johnson slipped out of his break. That was an easy touchdown toss from Winston Johnson, but it fell incomplete. So now you get a little dicey. Now you have a third and goal situation where you can just tell the play was going to get blown up from the start. It was going to get blown up from the start. That's a -4-yard loss because the Lions played the run perfectly and the Giants showed their hand. I mean, Winston didn't even try to audible. So now you got fourth down. You're on the road. There's under 3 minutes to go. You haven't won a road game in forever. Your quarterback's over 300 yards. Your wide receiver is about $150. You're over 500 yards of offense, 27 points, and you lost a bunch of players in the game, including one of your best DTs and Dexter Lawrence, who was banged up the entire game. Kick the points. Take the points. Kick the field goal. Make it a 6-point game. Have the Detroit Lions try to go to length of the field, and get 7 with limited time and timeouts. But what do? Mike Kafka is trying to make that great first impression. And instead, they call a horrible run play. And then instead, they get to the fourth down and they have the incompletion. And again, in hindsight, I would have kicked the points, but I also don't have a problem with them going for it. I have a problem with the play calling. And it's the same thing with some of these other teams, i.e., what I saw yesterday with the Eagles. Jalen Hurts can ill afford to take a sack. That's the only thing you don't want the quarterback to do. You've got Saquon Barkley. Why not run the football? It's bad coaching all over the league. I saw it in the Arizona game. I saw it last night with Bowles, with Mayfield. I see it on a weekly basis. And yesterday it bit the Giants in the ass because the Detroit Lions basically go off tackle on one play in overtime and it's a touchdown and the Giants never recovered. They weren't going to win that game. It's one touch. I mean, this kid's unbelievable. It's one touch and Gibbs is gone. I mean, he's just phenomenal. He's just a phenomenal player. And the Giants turn it over in downs. There's bad coaching in the NFL. Bad. So it's like you want to change the whole perception, the dynamic. It's one of the reasons you're firing guys left and right. You're going to fire the GM. You're not going to have Mike Kafka coach his team. And you're going to basically just blow it all up. And I'm going to see it across the board. McDermott's on the hot seat in Buffalo. Taylor's on the hot seat in Cincinnati. D'Amico Ryans maybe saved his job with the Texans in that little surge. The Steelers are a fraud. They're a fraud. I don't care if Mason Rudolph was quarterbacking. Yes, they're a fraud. This is what they do. They jump out of the gate, they go crazy at 4-1, and look what they've done over the last several weeks. The Bears, let's get rid of the head coach, keep the GM, bring in a guy that can work with the quarterback, and they're excelling. They are. Caleb Williams, the more I watch this kid, I get more impressed. I really do. That's why I'm saying that game against Eagles is not a gimme. That's not a gimme. The Bears can move the football and score points. The Eagles can't. But the coaching across the board yesterday in the NFL, and listen, for you guys getting on me with my Colts take, Kansas City got bailed out yesterday. Don't tell me they didn't. It was one of the worst. Listen, I give them credit. That's 11-point deficit. You win the game in overtime, 23-20 on the Bucker field goal. Offensively, they didn't do anything. You had to rely on the kicker for 5 field goals yesterday, but they got bailed out with a horrible roughing the passer call. Absolutely horrible roughing the passer call. And then the Colts had some breakdowns in overtime, and they were able to exploit it because you still have Patrick Mahomes back there. He threw for close to 360 yards. But they're not getting back to the Super Bowl. They're not. They're just not. They're not that good. Giants had bad front office and leadership up there. Horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Line's decent, but I haven't seen anything from Carter yet. Thibodeau's been hurt. Lawrence is banged up. The secondary has always been issues. But the offensive line, I know Kevin C. Chiming in right now. Q, you do have to give credit to the O-line. I thought Winston played really well, but once again, it falls back on execution late by the defense. Yes, offensive line has played well for the Giants this season. Yes. So going back and, looking at some of these games yesterday, so a couple things stood out. The Browns named Sanders starter for next week. Gabriel passes concussion protocol. Sanders gets the nod. And I want to make a point to talk about this for a moment because I came on the air Friday and I said, I don't care if Sanders goes 11 of 25, 100 yards and 2 picks. I don't care if he goes 20 of 28, 260 and 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to overreact, underreact. What I'll say is he was efficient. He had the bad turnover. He took 1 sack. That 1 touchdown, was a little hitch, right? Boom. And then the receiver did the rest. But they won the game. And there was a little spark. There was a little juice with Sanders under center. And I know Mike in Ohio chimes in, what'd you think of Stefanski giving the ball to Garrett and not Sanders? That's what Stefanski does. Stefanski's a clown. He's a clown. I mean, it's not even caving in at this point. Just make the kid the starter going forward for the rest of the season and just see what you have. It's really not a hard decision to make, right? Like, it's the easiest decision. Starting Shedeur Sanders for the rest of the season, which means against the 49ers, against the Titans, against the Bears, against the Bills, against the Steelers, against Cincinnati, that's really the only decision that Stefanski should make. And maybe, as crazy as it sounds, now, is that decision going to save his job? I don't know. But they can beat the Titans. They can beat Cincinnati. They might even be able to beat the Steelers. And now you're talking about a rookie quarterback, 2 rookie quarterbacks that you started and you won 6 games. Does ownership sit there and say, that's a hell of a coaching job? Who knows? Or do they say, well, you waited too long to go to the kid. We don't like how you handled the kid. You mismanaged the kid. Wherever you hang your hat here in Cleveland, the bottom line is you started a rookie on the road and he got a win. That's it. So good for Shedeur Sanders. And, I don't care. Everyone's sitting there saying, well, listen to his comments afterwards. He's so unlikable and this and that. And he's talking like his father and he's cocky and he's arrogant. You know what? Leave that for X. Leave that for social media. I don't care. I don't care. Joe says, Q, are you freaking kidding me? The pass was 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. I'm agreeing with you. The wide receiver catches and it goes 66 yards. I'm not going to get crazy over it. I told you guys this. I told you this. Yeah, fine. Little hitch. Here we go. Great blocking down the field. The receiver does the rest. What I'm saying is the kid won the game. That's all you can ask for. We're so enamored with these stats. We get caught up in these stats. Just go out and win the game. He won the game. He won a road game. He's given the franchise some juice, a little life. That's all you can ask for. I don't know if this kid's going to be the quarterback of the future for the Cleveland Browns, but just start him the rest of these games. Oh, man. I saw what I saw yesterday. Did you guys see the end of end of regulation, Arizona and Jacksonville? Oh, my goodness. I mean, it was a very good game. It was an entertaining game, but Trevor Lawrence stinks. I'm so over Trevor Lawrence. My buddy said this years ago, Trevor Lawrence is not a good quarterback. I'm over Trevor Lawrence. He just, for the life of me, I can't watch this kid anymore. But anyway, Jacksonville, so it's 24-21. Arizona turns the ball over on downs. Then Jacksonville turns the ball over on downs. Arizona gets the ball back late in this game. I think there's like a buck 30 something to go. Brissett slinging it all over the place. They had this really long pass play. It was a 31-yard pass play to the wide receiver, Michael Wilson. He gets up, spins the ball, runs back, tries to get the ball, and Arizona is just taking their good, sweet time. 35 seconds to throw from Brissett to Wilson. They had to clock it with 10 seconds left and then kick a field goal with 3 seconds. It was the worst clock mismanagement I've seen in years. They had an opportunity to take a shot in the end zone, and then obviously it goes into overtime. Jacksonville kicks the field goal. Arizona turns it over on downs, but just unbelievable. Just a horrible mismanagement. KC doesn't have a running game. That's hurting the offense. They have not had a consistent running game. When your quarterback is your lead rusher, and remember, this was supposed to be Pacheco. Didn't Isaiah Pacheco basically say this was a revenge year, right? I agree with you 100%. I told you this. Agree with you 100%, man. We both agree to this. I didn't need to see Russell Wilson to start. I said I'd be more comfortable with Jameis Winston back there. At least he's going to throw the friggin' football. Only thing Russell Wilson did was go out there and win the coin toss in overtime. No, Jameis Winston, he can play. We all know that. He's not the future for the Giants, but he's a good pro. He's a very good teammate. He loves playing the game, right? I mean, you got the full Jameis Winston experience yesterday. You got the full Jameis Winston experience. You got the pick where you're like, you got close to 400 yards passing, and then you get the little trickery. The Giants had almost 400 yards passing, over 122 yards rushing, and they had a receiver that went for over 150 yards, and they still lost the game. It's maddening being a Giants fan. It's absolutely maddening. Mel chimes in. Q, did I hear you correctly? Rams are the best team. Yeah. I think right now the Rams are the best team in the NFL. I know New England has won 9 straight. They're 10-2. Baltimore has won 5 straight. They're dealing with some injuries. They're going to win that division. It's also a product of their remaining games. Indianapolis is going to be a playoff team. Denver's a good team. But for the Bronco fan out there, I don't trust the quarterback. And I'm a big Bo Nix fan, and I also don't trust the head coach. Their offense has major issues. Major issues. Now, they've got some really easy games coming up. They're on the road against Washington, who's mailed it in. They're on the road against the Raiders, who just fired Chip Kelly. Pete Carroll's one and done. They mailed it in. That's 11 wins right there. The Packers, that's a winnable game. That gets you to 12. Jacksonville might be a tough game, depending upon where the Jags are at. Then you got Kansas City and the Chargers. And the last thing the Denver Broncos want to do is have Kansas City get any more life. So you're looking at the Broncos are 9-2, the Chargers are 7-4. Kansas City, let me pull up the Chargers schedule. The Chargers have the Raiders, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Broncos. Wow. You know what I'm starting to think, guys? I'm starting to think Kansas City is that second team coming out of the West, and the Chargers, just by virtue of their schedule, might be on the outside looking in. The Raiders is a winnable game. That's 8 wins. Do they beat the Eagles at home? I don't know. Do they go on the road and beat Kansas City? That's a tough task. On the road against Dallas, who can score a lot of points, the Texans coming on, and then at Denver. Man, you know what's really going to hurt the Chargers? Those 2 bad losses in the beginning of the season. They lost on the road against the Giants, who started Dart, and then they had a bad loss against Washington when Daniels came off an injury. Mm-mm-mm. Giants' record could be a lot different if they stayed healthy and got some breaks. Yeah, but they so it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. The Giants should have started Winston, but it was only a matter of time when Dart was going to start. Now, if Jameis Winston goes out and they beat Washington, and he has the type of performance that Russell Wilson did against the Cowboys, and they win that game, they don't have a defensive lapse, maybe a different story. You know, the Chiefs game, the offense was bad. I think Winston probably would have got 3, 4, 5 games just like Wilson. Now, even if they win that game against Dallas, they also blew a 14-point lead on the road against a horrible Saints team that was winless at the time. They blew, as you know, a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter late against Denver. They didn't show up against the Eagles. They got outclassed by the 49ers. They blew a lead against the Bears. They hung around against the Packers and blew another lead against the Lions. They don't know how to win, Michael. They're not a winning franchise. So even if you look at 3, 4, 5 wins, it's not going to change the fact that you had to get rid of the head coach. You had to get rid of the defensive coordinator. This interim head coach is not the right answer as head coach. They need an overhaul, and you got to get rid of the GM. So I'll take a season like this as long as I knew what I got hammered for saying this. All I wanted to see was the progression of Jackson Dart. I'm not trying to sound like, the loser take. I didn't care about the wins and losses because you guys knew that I was never a Brian Daboll fan. So the more, the more losses, as the losses mounted up, the more likelihood is they were eventually going to make a change. Now, I wasn't as shocked as a lot of Giant fans and media and talking heads were that they fired Daboll during the season. I think it had to be done. I'm more shocked that this defensive coordinator has lasted as long as he has. Shane Bowen should have been fired after the Denver loss. And you can really make an argument, even though the optics would have been poor, to fire him after the Cowboys loss. The Cowboys loss was you put your hand on the stove, you burn yourself once. You do it again, you're going to get punished. So the Cowboys was the warning. Okay? Denver, he should have got punished. He should have been fired right there. He should have. That Saint game, you had rookies playing like rookies. Jackson Dart had the turnover. Scatterboo had the turnover that was returned back for a touchdown on the fumble. You can live with that. Second time around, the Eagles just outclassed them. The 49ers outclassed them. But the Bears game, the Packers game, the Lions game, all blown leads. All blown leads. You can't survive in the NFL with late collapses. You just can't. You can't. And the problem is that you got rid of Wink Martindale, who's overly aggressive, uberly aggressive, but the players loved him. But Brian Daboll and him butted heads. So now what do? You bring in you're bringing your guy, and you just can't do that. You can't. You can't. You can't blow a fourth quarter lead on the road against a playoff team. You can't. You can't blow a lead against Dallas when you never win divisional games. The Giants are 2-5 in games in which they had a double-digit lead. Had to be done. It had to be done. And the defense, they paid a lot of money. It was supposed to be the strength. That defensive unit was supposed to be the strength of this team. Hasn't been there. It just hasn't. So, like I said, I think, Kafka says it was his decision. Okay, but he's not going to. I don't see any scenario where he is the head coach going forward. I just don't. All right, as far as these games that I mentioned over the weekend, Texans got that good win to start things off on Thursday night. Talked a little bit about the Bears and Williams, 18 of 35, 235, a couple touchdowns. Bears are 4-1 at home. They put up 31 points. The Steelers are pretty much, what in the bed right about now. Patriots, young teams find a way to win early. I mentioned that I don't foresee, why does Cincinnati want to rush back Burrow? Apparently, he might get the start on Thursday, Thanksgiving, right, against the Ravens on the road. I would advise against it. Cincinnati's got no reason to play this kid. We talked a lot about the lines over the Giants. Packers, here's a team in the Vikings. Packers beat them 23-6. And again, man, I got to give credit to you guys. You guys called it, during the offseason. J.J. McCarthy stinks. He's just not good. Harbaugh basically gassed him up. But this kid he's not good. He's just not. And now he's in concussion protocol. So they might be looking for a quarterback. Seattle, Darnold, I told you that's a bounce back game. Sling and Sammy bounced back in a big way. Couple touchdowns, no turnovers. Offensive line kept them upright. They ran the ball for $114. Tennessee, they're giving you a fight. They're a bad football team, but they're trying. And that's all you can ask for. A young team, rookie quarterback, bad spot. They fired their head coach. Seattle is now 8-3. Kansas City staying alive, 23-20 over the Colts in overtime. Jets no-showed against Baltimore. Baltimore's about to, they're going to continue to go on this run. We looked at Baltimore's schedule. They're 6-5 right now. Here's their remaining games. Cincinnati, the Steelers, Cincinnati. 9 wins is winning that division. Plus, they get the Steelers to close the season. Patriots is going to be a tough game, but if the Patriots are to be taken serious, they beat the Ravens on the road. And then Baltimore has to go to Green Bay and Pittsburgh to close out the season. I like the Ravens winning the AFC North. Lloyd Vance said they're about to go on the run. The Browns get the win over the Raiders. The Raiders are a bad football team, 10 points. Geno Smith, it's a bad spot. Chip Kelly making all that money. That offense stinks. They don't know how to utilize their running back. I mean, you give them 17 touches. It makes no sense. And listen, in the NFL, 14-0 is not an insurmountable deficit. Like you're down 14-0, 14-3 going into the locker room, you can still try to run the football. They just, for some reason, I just don't get it. And I know that Gentee had that ankle injury, but even prior to that, they don't utilize this kid. They don't run him. They don't. You're talking about the 6th overall draft pick, and he doesn't get any touches. I mean, he should be the lifeblood of that offense to take pressure off Geno Smith, who's a turnover machine. But Sanders efficient yesterday for Cleveland. 11 of 20, 200 yards, touchdown, 1 sack, threw the pick, but got the win. And he's going to be the starter, I think, for the foreseeable future. Jacksonville gets the win over the Cardinals. Lawrence yesterday, 18 of 30, 256, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks, and that horrible pick that was tipped, that was returned for a touchdown early on in that game. He's not a very good quarterback. He's just not. I'm sorry. If, Vince is listening, the converted Steelers to Duval fan, Trevor Lawrence stinks. I can't trust him with the game on the line. I can't trust him in a big spot. I can't. I just can't. He's not a franchise quarterback. He's a maddening quarterback, to be quite honest with you. His decision-making at times, he just doesn't see the field. He just doesn't. We talked a lot about that Dallas win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Falcons got the win over the Saints, 24-10. Let me pull up Cousins yesterday, 16 of 23, a $1.99, 2 touchdowns and a pick. And what do we got there? What'd they run for? $1.21. Falcons are a bad team. Morris is done after this year too. They're just not a good football team, and the Saints need a quarterback. Then last night, I don't know how many guys stayed up to watch that game last night. Baker gets hurt. He goes down. I have no idea why Bowles is attempting him to throw a Hail Mary. Made absolutely no sense. It just, that's Stafford is just playing on, he's just playing on another level, man. He's locked in. And has anyone else noticed the type of season, I guess you can say the resurgent, right? Type of season right now? So Devontae Adams, this is crazy when you think about this. He's got 48 receptions on 94 targets. He doesn't even have 700 yards, but he's scoring a touchdown every 4 catches. He's got 12 touchdowns this year. 12. I mean, his career high was 18 with Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers. He might surpass that. The Rams are a extremely balanced team. The one thing I want to see from the Rams, and you can't talk about it from last night's game because they led 31-0, 31-7 going in the locker room. They have to be a little more consistent to the ground game. That's all. Thomas Point chimes in. Q, I think that was a hot pot shot by Jason Avant taking a shot at Saquon Barkley. I don't think he was calling him soft. I just think he was saying that, you know what, you're not the same running back. Yeah, but that's the same thing. You're sitting there saying it's a hot shot, it's a pot shot, but it's not a cheap shot. Jason Avant basically is calling Saquon Barkley soft. Jason Avant basically came out and said that Saquon Barkley is making business decisions. I think it was, wide receivers get out of bounds. They're pretty. Running backs stay in bounds. Saquon Barkley doesn't trust the offensive line. Saquon Barkley is doing a lot of dancing. Saquon Barkley, he's showing you the bad habits. Getting tackled for losses. Not being decisive when to cut, when to hit the hole. Now, if you want to argue with me, that's a product of the offensive line. I'm going to push back, right? G-Man chimes in. Q, you think the Giants are going to give Robinson a contract extension? You have to. You have to. You have to. Kid's a good route runner, catches the football. He's tough. He goes across the middle, for a smaller wide receiver, and he makes plays. I think he's got better numbers this season than Jefferson. I mean, he's just quietly putting together a really nice year. He's going to go over 1,000 yards. And now you're talking about going over 1,000 yards with 3 different quarterbacks in one season. No, he's starting to turn into that stretch to field threat that Neighbors, if healthy, can be, that everyone thought Slayton was going to be over the last several years. Wan'Dale Robinson is averaging 12 yards per reception. I mean, think about that for a moment. If I'm averaging 6 to 7, second and short, I can run. I can be creative. I can play action. This kid's averaging 12 yards a reception. He's got close to 800 yards receiving. He's going to go over 1,000. Now, you guys might sit there and say, well, that's commonplace in the NFL. Well, he's played with 3 different quarterbacks this season. He was a second-round draft pick. I would pay the kid. He's a very good wide receiver. He really is. The Giants have, what makes it frustrating? They don't know how to win, but they have some talent. I mean, they just, G6 chimes in. Q, do you think Winston's going to garner that play of the year? That was unbelievable. That was a fun play, but, I think Jameis wants to win football games, to be honest with you, right? Isn't that kind of the name of the game here? Winning football games? Matty Ice chimes in. Q, I know you're not going to put anything on Hurts, but he did miss a couple throws yesterday. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Jalen Hurts doesn't miss throws, but if you're trying to pinpoint why the Philadelphia Eagles lost that game, I will say this: the run-pass balance in a game in which the Eagles were up 21-0, you would think, if I said to you, Jalen Hurts threw the ball 39 times and the Eagles ran it 11, not counting Jalen Hurts' 7. If I said Jalen Hurts threw it 39 times and they ran it 11, you would say what? They were playing from behind. They were up 21 to nothing and they ran the football a total of 18 times. That falls on the offensive coordinator. That falls on the game plan. It does. Saquon Barkley, 2.2 yards of carry. I mean, Bigsby had one touch and it was 8 yards. Again, 3rd and 2. You don't give the ball to your running back. You have Jalen Hurts drop back to pass. You want to be nitpicky and say you don't take a sack there? I agree with you. That's the last thing you want to do. But again, if you go back and you look at that game as a whole, they did so many bad things yesterday. That game was filled with hanky after hanky after hanky. It was a bad football game on so many levels. There was too many penalties, a bunch of turnovers, and you blew a 21 to nothing lead on the road against a divisional rival. In a week where, as I said, you had an opportunity to silence a lot of critics. That D Gun report comes out about Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. Did yesterday's game make you feel any better? Did it? Why? Because they hooked up on a couple plays? AJ Brown caught his 8. Did he really do anything second half? No. Did the offense really do anything in the second half? No. It was like mistake after mistake after mistake. Super Bowl caliber teams, defending Super Bowl champs, you don't lose games like that. You don't have games like that. So you want to sit there and say it falls on the players to execute? Fine. But you also have to hold the coaching staff accountable. Period. I mean, it's just some of the bonehead plays, man. 12 men on the field. Dallas taking advantage of it, picking up easy yardage, converting first downs. That's just mental lapses. That's unacceptable. Personal fouls, unacceptable. Guys out of position, unacceptable. No gap discipline, unacceptable. I mean, that defense right before the half was soft. You had the chunk play from Turpin, which was a killer, and then you don't buckle down after that, and the Cowboys go 72 yards in 2 minutes. It was just not a good, the second half, in spite of the fact that the Dallas Cowboys tried to give that game. It just made no sense. Sarge chimes in from Delaware. Q, look up Saquon's stats in the second half. I bet he didn't even average 3 yards a carry. All right, he didn't. He had 2.2 yards per carry midway through the third quarter. 9 carries for 20 yards. The screen pass went nowhere, right? Then you had the Jalen Hurts overthrow. They couldn't do anything right. It was bad. You had Zach Vaughn dropping an interception. You had horrible, horrible penalties. Eagles had 12 penalties at the start of the fourth quarter. That is basically, the old NFL films, get your shit together. That's exactly what that is. Then you have a kicker that's pretty much automatic, and then he misses the long field goal. And I love the fact that the Dallas Cowboys decide after that field goal miss, play action, we're going deep to Pickens. No one can stop them. They couldn't cover him. It just, I've seen it's commonplace for a team as good as the Philadelphia Eagles and all the success they've had over the last several years. I just, for the life of me, don't understand, with all the talent they have, how sometimes the offense just goes south. And it's like almost non-existent. All right, 5:30, quick timeout. We'll close it up. We'll talk a little more about that Monday night affair as well. All right, let's wrap it up on a Monday. Got hoops call tonight. We'll be on the call overseas. We've got Monday Night Football. By the way, we did drop a nice segment NBA today with Jonathan Marshall, so that'll be on the YouTube channel. New edition of Overseas Dimes is dropped as well. But busy Tuesday, Lloyd Vance is going to join us. We'll recap all the action. Panthers and the 49ers. 49ers laying 7. I love the grit from the Panthers tonight, but I got to stick with the 49ers because I still believe they're going to win their 10 games. And I know they're banged up. I'm actually more inclined to play the over tonight in this game. It's 49 and a half. I think the Panthers cover, but play the over. But I like the 49ers winning the game, if that makes sense. Let me squeeze in one or two more comments. Mark and Wallingford chimes in. Q, I think you hit the nail right on the head with this Eagles offense. It's beyond predictable and stagnant. Are they going to be able to turn it around? They get the ground game going. If they get the ground game going, it's going to open things up for Hurts, and it's going to take pressure off Jalen Hurts. Right? That's the way I look at it. And then lastly, let's squeeze in franchise QQQ. My Ravens are going to win the AFC North. Laugh out loud. I can't believe it's true. Yeah, it's more of a product of how bad they are. Definitely a fraud team. They are definitely a fraud team. All right, got to start wrapping it up. As I mentioned, we got hoops in about an hour. We'll be back in the saddle tomorrow. A little more extended edition of On Cue on this Man Up Monday. I'm glad some of you took the time to man up while others didn't. Appreciate all the new listeners and commenters as well. Check out the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q. Get social with me on X and IG at Rich Q on Q. TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. We're also going to be on SR 1029 FM The Game. Have a good sports Monday. Subscribe, like, and comment to the YouTube channel as always. Back in the saddle tomorrow. Appreciate you guys listening to a Monday edition of On Cue, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea, Three Brooks Bourbon, and of course, Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. Have a good sports Monday. We'll talk to you mañana. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.